This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's pod, the show for the week of July 31st, 2023. Phil, the summer's almost over. How do you feel?
I know, it's August tomorrow. It'll be September before you know it, and then October, and then I guess we could start thinking about Halloween. Oh, no, wait. They already put up the Halloween decorations today at Magic Kingdom. So this one does on July 31st.
Yeah, well, you'll be there in a couple of weeks. So you can take some nice pictures. This week, we're going to debut a new show format. You might have got a little bit of hint of this with some new games that we did. New show format is basically we're getting rid of the news, we're getting rid of topics, and we're combining them. So instead of like Phil kind of reading off like new cupcakes and stuff like that, we're going to pick out what's going on and actually what's going on in our Disney World and talk about things that have happened, things that we've read that had us thinking this week, and we kind of talk about them. So it's going to be a lot of it's going to be newsy type stuff, but we're not just going to read you the news, right? So that's going to be a lot of fun. We got two new games that we're going to play, and we're going to go over them a little bit later. One of them is called Rank 'em, and the other one is called Demo, Retheme, and Expand. I'm excited about this one. And we'll explain all the rules later on and some of the reasoning of why we wanted to change everything, kind of part of our DVC engagement. Because if you remember, we asked for some segment ideas from the community last week. That being said, I'll just remind of our social media accounts, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, and our YouTube channel, all at the DBC Pod. Same name everywhere you go, so you can have no excuse not to find us in any app that you have. But more importantly, please join our Discord server where the conversation is ongoing every minute of the day. And we want to welcome Joseph. He just joined our YouTube family. Thanks for joining. And I've seen an uptick in our YouTube videos lately. I'm very happy to see that. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And make sure you're hitting that like and subscribe button. That helps us out quite a bit in expanding our audience. But first, Phil, as always, what is going on in your Disney World this week?
So one of the big things that has been on my mind is looking at the development of Journey of Water inspired by Moana. And because obviously I'm hopeful that it'll be open when we go down for our trip in just about a month. But as mentioned in the past, there are cast member previews going on now. And I saw a report from somebody who I guess had access to somebody who did one of the previews. And they mentioned that some of the features that you'll be able to do when you're interacting with the elements of Journey of Water. And it included, there'll be water harps that you can play by passing your hand under the like water strings, a waterfall that'll like part when you go through it, leaping fountains, the ability to high five the water. So that seems like the one that's kind of the most taken from the movie and stuff like that. And then there'll be a children's play area with the Kakamora. So to be honest, a little bit more than maybe I thought there would be, or different variety of things. I don't know what your reaction was when you kind of saw some of this, Jason.
No, I mean, I read it and I'm like, that's actually pretty cool. I mean, I don't know what to expect.
Right, exactly.
Pretty well themed area from all the aerial photos that we've seen. It looks great. It's a good size. I mean, at minimum, I thought it's just like something you walk through and it's just plants and waterfalls. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of lame. But I don't think they would have invested all this money and time if it was just like a path of pretty things, right?
Right.
So was I surprised by all these things? I wasn't, but I don't know if there's a word for it. Like I wasn't surprised, but they weren't expected either, right?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, this is pretty cool. I like all of them, and I know you're going to talk about why this is kind of in your head a little bit, but like I think it's great that there's some kind of engagement with it.
Yep. So I was going to say, I was inspired by the Journey of Water, which itself was inspired by Moana, to kind of think about like, okay, obviously this is sort of the last big part of the finishing up of Epcot. And a lot of people are sort of talking down to it because like, oh, this has taken 5 years and it's just a stupid walkthrough. It's a blah, blah, blah. But what it is it's a C or D level attraction. And all the parks, I think, need more of these. We don't need just e-ticket attractions. These are the things that you can do that you don't have to get a Genie Plus for or buy a individual Lightning Lane for. You can kind of just walk up and do them and not kind of stress about it. It's kind of one of those things you can do while you're waiting for maybe other things to do, or just somewhere to take the kids to burn off some energy and stuff like that. So it got me thinking, obviously Moana is something that's being used here. We saw it in some of the Blue Sky for Animal Kingdom, but there are other properties that could be used elsewhere. And it just got me thinking, like, what other types like this level attraction would we like to see in the parks? Because it's easy to think of like the big headliners and stuff like that. But what other type of smaller attractions would we want to see in the other parks?
No, it's a good question, but I think we should start off by asking, like, what is the comparison in the other parks of a Moana? So what would you consider a C or D level attraction these days at, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, or, obviously Magic Kingdom? Do you have it like for me, it'd be like Magic Kingdom would be like maybe something like PhilharMagic or, I don't know if Barnstormer kind of goes to it.
I think Barnstormer or the teacups or something like that, kind of like a filler attraction that you do maybe when you're waiting for your next Genie Plus to come through. So I think like those. In Animal Kingdom would probably be Triceratops Spin and maybe like the walking trails or the Boneyard. I think at Epcot there's like the Grand Fiesta Tour or Living with the Land, kind of the ones that generally, often will only have a 5-minute wait or something like that. Obviously Epcot's a little unique with all the country stuff that you can kind of walk through and the films and stuff like that.
Well, I'm sorry for interrupting. Epcot's kind of like that unique type of park that needs a lot more of these, because the ones that it does have are either old or people aren't excited to see them, or they're like kind of tucked away and people might not know where they are or look for them.
Yeah.
Because I was just having a conversation with the family, and we're talking about like, what is our next Disney trip look like, and part of it is like, what do you do on your Epcot day? What would you do differently on an Epcot day? And it always felt like we always had this downward pressure of hitting Remy's Fast Track and Frozen, and if we didn't hit those up, we'd have to be always omnipresent of when we can get back on them if we have hit them up, and instead of just enjoying the park, it's like it's ride, which is I'm really excited about Moana's the Journey of Water attraction, because it's kind of like, it's not something you're just going to buzz through and whatever, but there's time to engage in it, and you're not standing in a line, or maybe not too much of a line, I guess.
Right.
But like, it's like some of the other, country pavilions where it's kind of like you do it or you don't do it, but there's, you walk through the trains and check out the little train set and stuff like that. It's kind of similar to that, but obviously with many millions of dollars of infrastructure underneath it. So I guess you're asking, what CD attractions would you like to see in each park? So I'll just start with you, Phil, and say, in Hollywood Studios, let's start at Hollywood Studios. Is it more shows or more attractions?
So I think Hollywood Studios probably has enough shows, especially if they do anything with the Little Voyage of the Little Mermaid. I think it's more, because that's similar to Epcot, right? It's got a number of like, headliner type attractions, but it doesn't have a lot of the filler type attractions. I mean, maybe there's Star Tours and
swirling saucers.
Yeah, that sort of thing. But there's not a lot. Like, there definitely could be some more smaller attractions that you can go through that are either walkthroughs or just, won't have huge lines and kind of jump through. So that was actually one of the first parks I thought of, and an area that I thought would be great would be if in Toy Story Land they were able to fit in like a play area, something similar to like the Boneyard in Animal Kingdom, but something that's kind of like, the oversized blocks and toys and stuff like that Andy left in the yard, and the kids can kind of climb around. Maybe there's some shade, maybe there's a little bit of water effects and stuff like that. But another thing where you could take the kids to, it's not them standing on a line, they could burn off some energy. I think that would be a good addition to that park.
Yeah, I think if they ever did like an expansion where you have where Lightning McQueen is, and you wrapped it around to whatever they might do in Animation Courtyard, there's a lot of room there for like, they need they need like dark rides. They need, I mean, it doesn't have to be Rise of the Resistance level dark ride either, right? It
Right.
could be like classic dark rides. It could be, just your normal kinetic type of rides, like you mentioned, like either spinners are really cheap to put together, but they definitely need something. I do recall, correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, that Galaxy's Edge had some additional rides that were canceled. One of them was like a people mover like thing where you just kind of go through the area, right? Was it a bantha ride or something?
It
else
wasn't a
that I can't
bantha;
remember?
it was a different creature, but it was similar to that. It was going to be, I guess, larger than a bantha that 8 to 10 people, whatever, could fit on it, and it was going to walk around the land type thing. So I guess in some ways function like the people mover, in other ways maybe like kind of the Main Street vehicle or something like that. But that was one idea, but it was just I think deemed the cost per like capacity wasn't there.
Yeah.
But I think that's an area that could use a third attraction. That again is a smaller thing. I don't know what it would be. Maybe it's some sort of like quest type thing through a Jedi temple or something like that, where you kind of, again, not a long line, but keeps people engaged for a little bit longer and kind of builds on the lore of the land a little more.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing with Hollywood Studios, and we'll move on to the next park after this, is they have a lot of real estate dedicated to shows like Indiana Jones or Beauty and the Beast, but they're people eaters, right?
Yeah.
You could fit, I don't know what's the occupancy of Indiana Jones? How many?
I'm not sure. I did look up
2,000
recently.
people or something?
I don't know if this is comparable, but I had recently because somebody was looking for something. The American Gardens Theater in Epcot holds 1,800 people. So I would think Indiana Jones is probably similar to that. And
Makes
Beauty and
sense.
the Beast, yeah.
So I mean, like, do you take out a show like that and put in like an Indiana Jones themed like land where you have a dark ride similar to like obviously like Dinosaur, which is the ride that's from Disneyland or anything else like that? I think you have to do something like that because Hollywood Studios is the biggest hit. Like every time you want to go on an attraction, it's a marquee 1 hour plus line attraction. Let's move on to Animal Kingdom, and the trails are great, but they're expensive because you have to maintain the animals and the care and the feeding and the upkeep. It's not just like a normal attraction, so that type of thing. So I don't think you can add more trails to that park, especially because they only kind of be in a certain area. But I think, Pandora did it right where they added a top flight attraction and then just a river attraction, which was great. And I think they should add additional things to like the Everest in Asia type of thing. Maybe like, I don't know, another river or dark ride type of thing that has to do with like the Yeti or something else like that. You saw plans for like the Blue Sky for the Moana area. It's got a boat ride, it's got a spinner ride, and it's got whatever attraction that goes like where they think that Zootopia might go or whatever it might be. So I think they have that covered. Right at this point, but they need to add some more stuff, I think, for sure, in that part.
I think so, and I think a third attraction in Pandora would be good too, because obviously, even though it's supposed to be like an e-ticket and a C-ticket, that C-ticket still gets like hour-long plus waits. So another one like that really helped you explore Pandora a different way. I don't know if there could be something where it's like almost like a Peter Pan type ride where you're flying over the land or something like that, or some like another like people mover-ish type thing, but you're going through Pandora.
Some kind of omni mover.
Yeah, I think it could be neat.
So I mean that leaves us with Magic Kingdom. I don't know if Magic Kingdom needs any more CD attractions.
Yeah,
they just need more space.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the one park that probably has enough of those, and that's probably one of those reasons Genie Plus works well there. And it's just like there's a lot of things you can do there. And like you said, you pointed out, whether it's the teacups or Philhar Magic or something, when you're waiting for a Genie Plus, you can always go into one of those, or the Country Bears or whatever. There's always something you can do if you have, say, a half hour until your next Genie Plus or something.
I mean, and I think that's why Animal Kingdom really kind of fails, because you can get done with that park by lunchtime, and if you rope drop it at like 7:30 a.m. or 8 o'clock in the morning when you can get there, and it requires you racing through the park, and it's not that park's meant to be like leisurely enjoyed for. Yeah,
it's like the park wandering the park is almost an attraction if you want to treat it that way,
But yeah, it definitely needs more. Magic Kingdom just needs more lands just to make it bigger, because it just has everybody. And the only thing I would want to add is that for any future land or future development for the fireworks show, they just need to do more projections throughout the show so it spreads people out away from the hub. I know obviously most people are going to want to watch the fireworks in front of the castle, but if they do 360 degrees of projections of the castle, it might be cool to kind of give people a reason to stand in Adventureland or in Fantasyland or something else to kind of.
Yeah, they do that in
away from
Disneyland, where
Right.
they projected on like It's a Small World, and actually when we were in Disneyland, however many years ago, that's where we watched the projections from. So, yep, no, I think that's good, and I think you could always still add more in Epcot too. I mean, I know there was the plans for the Mary Poppins ride that was supposed to be kind of another sea level type attraction. So, yeah, I think it feels like they think they know they need it, but then as budgets get cut, they don't cut the giant rides. They seem to cut the extra rides and stuff like that. So,
well, that's what I wanted to bring up, because part of your topic, because we just did some armchair imagineering and thinking like every park needs it, right?
Yeah.
It's that simple. But you have Disney that's always looking like they're just adding like the big $500 million rides, right? There's no like consideration for the small stuff. Outside, I guess outside of Toy Story Land, where they added Alien Swirling Saucers, that was really the last kind of.
Yeah, before Journey of Water. Yeah, I think that was probably the last one. Yeah. And
do you need more things like when New Fantasyland, where they did Storytime with Belle? That's a great attraction. That's like low cost, I guess, other than the cost of the cast members that are putting on the show. But why do you think the community, or at least the Disney community, I guess you can't call it Diz Twitter anymore because it's not Twitter, but Diz X, whatever it is. Why do you think people are so negative when Disney adds things that are not like this marquee, like great new attraction? It seems like, it's only just waste of time. It's like just water. I mean, like Disney's allowed to add some. Why do you think there's such a negative?
Yeah, well, I think there's just negativity in general that whatever this current management does, they're going to hate. So if they were only doing e-tickets, then they complain it's only e-tickets. When they do a C-ticket, they complain it's that. I think it's because Disney also overhypes things. They're building this up like it's the greatest thing. And even, Iger, I think it was Iger was talking about how it's like Epcot will be complete when this is done. And it's like the centerpiece and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, no, it's just supposed to be like an add-on, like an extra thing to all the other plans. If this was opening the same time as Remy and Guardians opened, everybody I think would feel much more positive about it. But because there was, and I think the other issue is there's, other than the retheme to Tiana, there's really nothing in the works. If there were like 3 other big projects going on, like literally shovels in the ground, I think then be like, all right, this is the thing we're getting now, but we know that stuff is working on. I think there's just a lot of doubt about the next stuff coming. So it kind of feels like this is the thing that has to last for a while. And like, while I think it's a really neat little thing, it's not like that marquee thing that can carry you and bring in new crowds when, lots of stories about attendance being down and stuff like that. So,
but I mean, you kind of answered my question. It's like, my next part is, why do you think Disney's so adverse to adding smaller, less large budget attractions? And I think they need something big to sell for marketing, but then that leaves very little budget over for some of the smaller stuff, when maybe that's what they should be focusing on. So we'll see what happens as Disney is evolving very quickly now with all the other stuff that's going on. Yep. All right, so we want to go over to my what's going on in my Disney World for this week, and something very funny happened to me on this weekend. My wife and I took a rare day together away from the kids. My mom's down to babysit. And we were going to we wanted to buy some frames to hang up on our Disney World, frame some of our pictures. And typically what we do is we'd go antiquing. So we just go and find some really bad pictures, but the frames are in pretty good shape. We fix them up and we get the frame for $5 or $10 versus $50 at the local frame shop, that type of thing. So we had a very long drive out to where we were going. It's about an hour and a half. And, we're chatting, and there was a low period. And my wife turns to me and says, why don't we plan a Disney trip for December? I'm like, what? And if you've been listening for my show, it's just like, I don't know the next time we're going to plan. It's very expensive, whatever. My wife handles a lot of the finances and the billing in our house. So she's kind of the bookkeeper, so to speak. That's exactly what she is. And I'm like, okay, we could do this. And one of her main motivations is she's going back to work as a teacher, and this holiday season might be the last time that we can actually go during that time, because she's only a long-term sub, and her job runs out and like after Thanksgiving. So I'm like, okay. And then we start thinking about like, okay, how much is this actually going to cost? And it terrifies me, Phil. So I was kind of running back down the numbers, and my thing is, okay, we're planning another Christmas trip, and this time, what of our lessons have we learned, right?
Right.
Like, the vacation and the vacation. So we've been thinking about this for the last couple of days. It's been very fun conversations. So the Disney Plus subscriber discount just came out, which is very beneficial, 35% off. We'd either do Riverside if it's just my family, or we would do Art of Animation Family Suites if my mother wants to come along. So that's the only reason why we haven't put the $200 deposit down to kind of do it. So we're trying to figure out what our accommodations are. So if we want to do Art of Animation first, it's $481 a night. We're going to go like basically the week before Christmas. So we'd come home the Saturday before Christmas. Christmas is on a Monday or Tuesday, I want to say, somewhere around there. And we want to target 2 Magic Kingdom days, 2 Epcot days, an Animal Kingdom day, and a Hollywood Studios day. Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party is for our family of 5 is $985. And the Jollywood Party is slightly cheaper at $900. And it's $900, I think, either like the Tuesday and the Thursday, and every other day is a party day at that point, right, for Magic Kingdom. So it's like, okay, what kind of ticket package do we want to put together so this is not absolutely ridiculous? So because we want to do 2 Magic Kingdom days, one of them is going to be a regular day at Magic Kingdom, and one a day would be a party day, right? So we would have the full day off until we want to go in at like 4 o'clock or so when you're allowed to go in. And then if we want to do a Hollywood Studios day, maybe we don't buy a ticket for Hollywood. We just do the Jollywood Party, which is a lot more expensive. So, Phil, do you want to hear what the cost of a vacation is with Art of Animation for 7 nights, 8 days, or Riverside first?
Why don't we do Art of Animation? Because that's the one like with your mother-in-law and stuff like
right,
that.
Right, so 6
like,
people.
Yeah, kind of the bigger one. Yeah.
So we're full on, full capacity for that suite. So a 6-day. This is not including my mother's tickets, just what I would have to outlay for this vacation. So these are sets of 5 tickets, 3 adults, 2 children. My daughter's now 10 years old, which is ridiculous, and she's now a Disney adult. Thank you, Disney, for that extra $10. I threatened my daughter, like, well, you're 10 now. You have to pay me the extra to cover the child to adult cost. And she kind of frowned at me a little bit. So the 6-day cost is $7,500 for 7 nights, 8 days. We could always tack that down. You're saving $480, right? So you do the math. If we wanted to go hoppers for all 6 days, it would be an additional $505. For a 5-day ticket, it's $7,250, which you save basically $250 for dropping down a ticket, right? Mm-hmm. A day of tickets. For a 4-day, it's $68.35, and you're saving $400 from the 5-day to a 4-day ticket. A 3-day ticket is $61.60, and you're saving $700 going from a 4-day to a 3-day ticket. So there's a pretty big kind of like chunk of savings there from the 3 to 4 day type of thing. One thing I realized, and somebody tell me if I'm mad, because I've never seen this before. I never realized it. Unless there was a bug in my UI and the prices didn't change with the Hopper add-on, but for adding Hopper for a 4-day, 5-day, and 6-day, it was always $505. Like
I know it. I know it's like for 1 day it's something, and then I think it's 2 or 3 day it's something, and then 4 and more it's one fee. So it doesn't change by every day. Yeah. There's like a couple break points, but it's not every single day it changes.
Yeah, because the 3-day Hopper to add 3 hoppers would be $400 plus $450. Yep. Then 4 days to 6 was always the same price. So I thought that was rather interesting. So the way I kind of say, okay, so now we have baseline of it's anywhere between $6,200 and $7,500 to go for either a 3-day ticket or a 6-day ticket when we're there, because we're gonna have 6 full days down there because we'll drive down and get there early on check-in day. So if I wanted to do 3-day ticket in both parties, right? Mm-hmm. So this is basically a Magic Kingdom day, a Hollywood Studio, an Animal Kingdom day, and a single Epcot day with a Hollywood Studios party and a Magic Kingdom party. The whole thing runs $8,000. Oof. So that's $500 more than a full stay with 6 tickets. If I want to do 4 days and all the parties, and this is 2 Epcot days, Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom day, that's $8,700. Again, Art of Animation, we're looking at almost nearly $500 a night. Yep. And a 5-day ticket with just one party is $7,800. So I can get the same as a 6-day ticket, but with a party, but it also costs you $300 more.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting the same amount of park time or park days, but you're spending $300 more to get the party there. So there's your kind of, and I think if we do anything, it's going to be a 5-day ticket plus a party because we really want to do the Mickey's party.
Yep.
So I think that's the outlay here. Now you could also do the math if you really want to and do a 3-day ticket. Well, I did this option for the Riverside. Let me run through the Riverside. All the numbers are all the same with the tickets. It's $300 a day. So for the 3-day plus the parties, it's $6,500. So you're saving $1,500 just on the room and board because you're saving $180 a day. So the interesting thing is, if it was just my immediate family, if I go 4 days, both parties and the Hopper tickets, that is $7,800. I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you. I don't know if people are listening and being like, what is he talking about? I can't even follow what you're saying. You get a 4-day ticket. So you're going to Magic Kingdom, 2 Epcot days, and a 2 Epcot and Animal Kingdom. Excuse me, it should be 3 days plus the parties plus the Hopper. So this way you do 2 Magic. Goodness, I'm trying to remember this in head. Anyway, what I was trying to do was you do an extra Magic Kingdom. We do 1 Magic Kingdom day, 2 Epcot days, and then your 4th ticket would be an Animal Kingdom Hollywood Studio hopping day.
Yeah,
and so then you would only need 4 tickets. That's why I have 4 tickets. Then you do the parties because you get both parties, and then you do the Hopper to get $77.90, or we can reduce it to just do 1 party and save another $400. So it's basically $7,300. And that really makes me cry.
Yeah.
And, I'm talking about all this money and I'm like, is it worth it to do this? Even if we back off a day, back off a park and just do 4 park days and go for 6 nights, I'm still saving, I'm saving $1,000, and $1,000 is still a lot. It's
$1,000. Yeah.
But we're still looking at like $6,000 or $7,000. And I guess maybe that's normal these days, but that just scares me. Quite a bit. So my question to you, Phil, and I haven't engaged you at all. I've been just throwing numbers, and you can follow along because I have the numbers in the show notes.
That's
here,
probably why I've been a little quiet because I have the show notes. I'm able to follow along. I don't have to ask.
So, like looking at this and kind of comparing it to your own trip, but you don't have the option of a second party going on.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your inclination on how to schedule this trip? And I guess this is a pseudo Mouse Mastermind game that we're doing here. So, what would be your inclination, regardless of Art of Animation or Riverside?
Yeah. So obviously, for my trip, we definitely made the call. We weren't going to do a park on a party day. So that's why we reduced. Yeah, so we reduced the number of days. So we're doing 4 days and then 1 party. Obviously, that second party, which does sound intriguing at Jollywood. How do you want to handle that and that sort of thing? That is a little bit later. It's not like the park closes super early for that. My first inclination was, if you do bring down your mother, could she maybe watch the kids and just you and your wife do the Jollywood night?
Well, that's an option. Making me think that, but again, I don't want to do things without my family.
Okay.
We did that last year. We had an adult only trip last year.
Yeah, that's true. So my inclination is just don't do the Jollywood night. As cool as it sounds, it's late. I don't know if especially your younger kids will really get into it, and you just start pushing too much if you're doing like full days and 2 parties and stuff like that. So I would probably do either 4 days or 5 days, and then the Mickey's party, because you had 6 full days down there, right? 7 nights, 6 full days.
Yep.
And then so you'd still have your 1 off day or your party. You don't have a park that day, even if you do 5 park days. And then you can even do some lighter days. I would, your plan of doing like, well, what if we only do like 3 days or 4 days and that one extra, but then we get the Hopper so we can do the Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios. I mean, that just gets to be a tiring day. And if you're only going to hop the one day, you're adding what, $450, $500 just to hop that one day,
which is kind of criminal.
Yeah, you're kind of better just to add a ticket, even if you do like 2 half days.
Mm-hmm. We were talking. My wife and I were talking. She hates going commando, as you like to call it, in the parks. And basically, it was kind of funny. I've come along that way as well, right? The vacation aspect. And the one lesson that I learned. Actually, I realized I learned this lesson a long time ago, but I never followed through on my lesson. But we did last year. If you remember from our trip reports, we did Animal Kingdom. We stayed there until like 5 or 6 o'clock, but we went back to the resort and we swam for like 3 or 4 hours at nighttime, and it was great. and just sitting poolside with nothing to do other than be with your family with the beer and kind of like digest the day.
Yep.
It was one of the best nights. It's the one things I remember from our trip rather than the whirlwind of going all over the place, right? So I'm going to figure out how do you do more nights off, right? The mornings are great. It's a slow day, but you're still getting up. You're cramped in your room. You got to get out and got to do something, or the kids are going to be just watching TV at Disney World,
Yep.
which is always silly in my opinion. So what days do you take off? So if you're doing a Mickey and Minnie's party, right, you have to stay up for that. So that's your night gone. Your other day is a Magic Kingdom day. You have to be there for Happily. Oh, at least I have to be there for Happily Ever After, because I haven't seen it yet since its return.
For sure.
So I need to see that. So that's 2 nights gone, right? So you have 4 more nights. Animal Kingdom is definitely a night for that, right?
Yep.
Hollywood Studios is conducive to more of a morning because you can stack. That's one day I would get Genie Plus, is because you can stack for late. So that's another night that's gone. So now out of the 4 nights, you've got Animal Kingdom night is your early night. Then I wanted to do 2 Epcot night days.
Mm-hmm.
Do you cut Epcot short?
If you're doing 2 Epcot days, I think you can cut one short, because Epcot Forever is a nice show, but I don't know if you need to see it twice.
Sure, true.
Okay. So I think that would be if you wanted 2 nights, and you had 2 Epcot days, that would be the other day to do it, I think.
I agree. And that's kind of how we were leaning if we end up booking it this way. We might even just save more money and just do 1 Epcot day as all and just have 1 resort
totally off day. Yeah.
So we might go in that
direction. You could do that. You could do go do a big lunch somewhere at Disney Springs or Resort Hop or whatever, and then you have the night back at the hotel. Yep. I mean, that's definitely a way to do it too.
So anyway, we'll hear more about it if we actually we're definitely going to put down money, the $200 for the booking. I don't know if this is actually going to get realized. So there will be plenty of more conversation about this on the show in the months to come.
Well, we talked about this last week, right? Like, how do you avoid the negativity? And one of my ideas was having a trip planned. So,
yes.
So at least even if you don't go, you have the trip planned just to avoid the negativity.
Well, I'll tell you this right now. As soon as you start talking about your trip, your brain starts thinking, and then obviously, we've never been at Art of Animation. I've seen plenty of videos, but my wife doesn't remember. So we were watching Disney Food Blog, 20-minute video going through it. And it's just like, it just brings back those warm and fuzzy feelings of the first time you've planned trips and stuff like that. So the magic of Disney's still there as long as you plunk down 200.
And then you start thinking about, like, well, what are the new things? What could happen? Because actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it might not be Epcot Forever. It might be the new fireworks show by the time you go there. And like,
it better be.
So all of a sudden, like, you're that much more into like news like that. Like, oh, that's going to be for December. Oh, like that's relevant to me. Like that's
And if you guys aren't on Discord or haven't been paying attention, Phil has been like posting like all different desserts and updates to parties. He's like, oh, this is all like his brain is like in plan mode, right?
Oh, yeah, I should have mentioned that. You asked like what I do this week. I was watching food and wine vlogs because everybody was there. Opening day, I'm watching everybody try all the food, and there's the food and wine app, so I'm going through and marking all the foods I want to have. Which
that's a great app, by the way.
If I didn't have a trip, I wouldn't be doing that. So it's like that type of thing.
It's amazing how like your cycle of consuming Disney content goes when you do have a trip coming up and when you don't. To me, it's like, I don't really care about food and wine. I'm not going, but like you're all gung ho about everything because you're about to go in a couple weeks, which is great. It's just really fun. All right. I think we killed that one to death. Hopefully you could follow along with the numbers in a general sense, and I wasn't rattling them off too fast. We want to move to our first time game. This is going to be interesting. Phil, this was your game. You invented it and laid it out. It's called Rank 'em the Magic Kingdom lands. It's a little bit different. I started ranking them and giving scores, and then I completely screwed up the way you wanted to do it. So explain to the audience what Rank 'em the Magic Kingdom lands is all about.
Sure. So the idea is that we are going to talk through which of the different lands that are in the Magic Kingdom. There's 6 of them, and we will give them scores based on their attractions, the food options there, and then the overall feel and theming of the land. And then we will decide on a score, and then we will rank them to see, which one's got the overall highest score. But I think the fun part of it is going to be us talking through it and say, because it's one thing for Jason to be like, oh, Main Street, the attractions, I give it a 2 or whatever. And it's like, well, why'd you give it a 2? Because I would think it would be this. I think, you forgot about that, or what about this? So I think that's the idea around it, is that we'll kind of talk through sort of the pluses and minuses for each of the different lands and kind of get through at the end of the day, what do we think is the top land or the bottom land in Magic Kingdom?
I was the dummy that just started scoring it all by myself, and I thought we were just going to compare our scores, and it would have been like a 2-minute segment. But no, we have to convince each other and agree on a score before we can move on. So I'll let you lead this game. No, will not let you. You will allow me to follow you through this game. Excuse me.
Yeah. And so my thought process is the biggest thing in each area is the attractions. That's kind of what you're focusing on. So the attractions will give a score of between 1 and 10, so maximum of 10 points. Food, you can get a maximum of 5, and then overall feel, you can get a maximum of 5. So the max score you could get for in total would be 20 points.
Okay.
So we'll go through the first lands, and these are in Wikipedia order. I think they're also the order they appear in the map that you get, the paper map in the park. So we'll start with Main Street, USA. Obviously, the first land you come through, which I'm sure everyone listening knows what Main Street is, but it's themed as an early 20th century American town, which was inspired by Walt Disney's childhood home of Marceline, Missouri. Now, the attractions that are in Main Street, USA aren't really a whole lot. There is the Walt Disney World Railroad, obviously has the main train station there. And then there's the Town Square Theater where you can meet Mickey Mouse. And Disneyland, obviously, that's also where they have Mr. Lincoln, great moments with Mr. Lincoln, but we don't have that in Walt Disney World. So given that it's just those two attractions, but obviously the railroad and meeting Mickey are pretty iconic. Out of 10, what score would you give the Main Street attractions?
Knowing I have to balance this against other lands and stuff
right.
like that.
I mean, that's going to be the tricky part because every land, you probably have a couple attractions you really like. You can't give everything a 10. The point is to kind of like rank them.
Yeah. I had to give this the attractions probably a 3, and I would have given it a 2 if the railroad was still closed. So the railroad gets a point.
Yeah. So my first thought actually was a 2, because it does have the railroad, but other lands have the railroad as well.
Good point.
And then right now the Tinkerbell meet is closed, so it's really just Mickey Mouse. And it seems like most of the other stuff is more the overall feel and theme of the land. Mm-hmm. So I was leaning 2, but I mean,
I'll go 2. I mean, you convinced me.
Let me
lock it in.
My handy dandy spreadsheet. Next land, then we have dining. So there's actually quite a bit of dining in Main Street, USA. There's Tony's Town Square. There's the Casey's hot dogs. There's the Crystal Palace is technically part of the Main Street area. There's the Plaza Inn. There's the ice cream parlor, and there's the bakery, which has Starbucks and stuff like that. So now some of those are probably better than others, but there is quite a selection of options to get food on Main Street.
And this is up to 5.
This is up to 5 for the food.
See, I don't give it credit for volume of places. Like, I don't think you get points just because you shoved a lot of stuff in there. Not that they're shoving stuff in there, but like, none of this stuff here really excites me other than Crystal Palace, right? Mm-hmm. Casey's is iconic, but like, I never really get food at Casey's. I don't want like eating a giant hot dog and running around in 95-degree weather. I give this a 2 as well on dining, just because I don't think the quality is there. And the only reason why it's not a 1 is because of Crystal Palace.
Yeah, I think Crystal Palace, I also think, just having the ice cream parlor and stuff like that is a nice touch. So if you were, the way you were talking, I thought you might have gone a 1. I would have argued not a 1. I think a 2 makes sense. So
okay. Hey, we're agreeing. Yeah. This is getting, this is dull overall because we agree with each other now still.
And then the overall feel, obviously it's themed to Main Street. And I did double check this because obviously you're on Main Street and in the hub when you're looking at the castle, but the castle is technically part of Fantasyland. So we wouldn't factor that in. But overall, how would you give the feel?
I mean, for me, this is an easy 5. I mean, it's joy. Like the moment you step in, you just feel joy because you have the music, you have the smells, you have the sights and sound. It's like iconic, Magic Kingdom. To me, it's a 5. Yep.
I get where you're coming from, and I think it's themed very well, and it does have that welcoming, like it's the first thing everybody sees and stuff like that, and it's obviously well put together. I mean, I might have gone a little lower, just because it is just that one kind of street. It's just that one section.
Spit it out.
I was thinking a 3.
Oh my God, a 3. I don't think we can do this podcast anymore. A 3. I mean, what would happen if I just said Epcot just stinks? Let's just close it. You'd be like, click, hang up, and we never talk again. I don't think you could.
I just when I'm thinking of the other lands, there's like more to explore and more like storyline to it and stuff like that. Like,
What are you judging the overall feel though? Because by feel, I mean like my personal mood and.
Well, I'm saying feel and,
there,
and
right?
theming and how it's all themed and put together. So kind of everything that isn't attractions and dining. It's kind of like a catch-all for all the other stuff.
Look, I can give you a 4, and that's
All
just
right.
because I like you. If you want to
All
settle,
right.
split the
We'll
difference.
settle it.
Here.
We'll split the difference on a
I
4.
don't know about this. I think you're going to get hate mail.
Well, bring on the mail. Bring on the
Come on Discord and yell at Phil.
All right, let's move on to Adventureland. So the attractions here are the Swiss Family Treehouse, Magic Carpets of Aladdin, Jungle Cruise Tiki Room, and Pirates of the Caribbean, which I know is one of your favorites. So I'm interested to see what you're going to give the attractions here, knowing they are still other lands with some big attractions as well. So, and again, this one's out of 10.
Yeah, I have to I'm not gonna. I'll spoil this. I'm not giving anything a 10 in Magic Kingdom, but I have to give Adventureland probably a 9. I'm biased because my all-time favorite ride is in this land, but Tiki Room is excellent and iconic. Jungle Cruise, again, iconic and classic. That's why I think they bring up the Treehouse and Magic Carpets.
Yeah, I mean, I have similar thought process. I do think the Magic Carpets really drags it down, especially with how it
That's true.
it breaks up, like just the placement of it and how it clogs everything. And I mean, the Treehouse is what it is. I don't know if that adds or takes away. So it has like 3 great attractions for sure. So I would probably vote to drag it down a little bit, maybe to an 8, but I'm not going to push it too hard.
See, you picked my favorite land first, and like I can convince you can convince me that it's an 8, but I don't know what you would score anything else in context. So I don't know if I can fight you here or not.
What we could do?
You gave Adventureland an 8. But
what we could do is we could put it down as a 9 or an 8 or whatever, and then afterwards we could talk through. We could review things and see if we want to make any changes.
Okay, so this is going to be a 2-hour podcast. That's
exactly.
Fine. Okay,
right. I'll put it as a 9.
Let's move
on. Dining. There's the Spring Roll Cart, Aloha Island, Sunshine Tree Terrace, Skipper's Canteen, and Tortuga Tavern. Again, this is out of 5.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give the food here. This is probably the best food in all of Magic Kingdom. I don't know if I want to give it a 5 because that's kind of high praise. Like I can think of other parts of any other park getting a 5. So I have to give this a 4 just because you got Dole Whips and one of my favorite sit-down meals at Skipper's Canteen. So I give it a 4 out of 5.
I agree with your thought process. I was actually going to go a 5 because I think you have probably the best table service. Tortuga Tavern, when it's open, is actually pretty good food, and you have the iconic Dole Whip and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people love the Spring Roll Cart. So like food wise, I think that's
good too.
Is kind of the way to go. So I was actually thinking again, like
you
that I think it's
convince me to go. 5.
All right, we're going 5. We're moving on. All right,
because Skipper's Canteen is my favorite. Absolutely,
right, exactly.
Give it a 5, sure.
And then overall theming and feel, this one's out of 5.
For me, like. It's my favorite land. I love the sound. I love everything. And you're right, Magic Carpets completely screws up the view of as you kind of come around from the treehouse and you kind of in that what is it, the bazaar area?
Agrabah Bazaar, I think.
Yeah. So like I want to give it a 5, but there's so many other like I can't give Pandora a 5 because that's like immersive as anything, and then give Adventureland a 5. So I have to go with a 4 just because of that my thought process.
I'm good with that, especially because I do think the carpets drags it. It's funny, this land would have done better with if you just take something away.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Frontierland attractions. It has a railroad stop, Big Thunder Mountain, Tom Sawyer Island, the Country Bear Jamboree, and then Splash Mountain / Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which I know it's a little tough to. How do you score it? That's something that's not open yet, but I think it's going to be the same basic attraction, so I think we can kind of judge it with that type of ride in place.
I mean, I'll give this a solid 3. It's got the 2
but this one's out of 10, remember?
Oh, 10, excuse me. I would give this probably a 7 then. Excuse me. A 7, only because there's not I mean, it's hard to say like when you have Big Thunder Mountain and Splash / Tiana's, but I think the rest of it kind of drags it down. I don't have a logical explanation of why I'm giving a 7. I could probably be convinced to go to 8, but I think I'm a solid.
I think 7
on this one.
feels fine to me too, because I really enjoy Tom Sawyer Island and Country Bear for what they are, but they're not. I'm not booking a Genie Plus for them and that sort of. And I think they're still, even though there's a couple, Big Thunder and Splash are great, or Tiana's, there's not a lot of volume here either. So I think 7.
Well,
makes sense.
and in Tom's and Country Bear are old attractions, right? So it's not like you're going over Toy Story Land and like everything is brand new and got a fresh coat of paint. So I'm okay. 7.
All right. So dining is the Golden Oak Outpost, Pecos Bills, Tall Tale Inn, and Westward Ho. I would give this a 0 if I could. But.
Well, I feel bad. I don't want to give it a 1. I could give it a 1 because I've eaten at one of these places. A 1 just seems like the food is actively bad for you, kind of like trash. That's how I think of a 1. So like it's okay for what it is, but it's still not good. So that's why I would give it a 2. Like 1 to me, a 1 is like the food is actively disgusting, and I refuse to eat there because it's bad.
Well, and that's why I think I give it a 1 is because Pecos Bills is the only place that we've eaten at I refuse to go back to.
Oh, really? I've eaten there once, and it was like 6 years ago, or maybe 7 now, and I remember it being whatever, not actively bad. So, look, I'll let you give it a 1. You're passionate about it. I'm good with that.
So 1. And then just the overall feel. Obviously, this is a romanticized portrayal of the American Old West. So, what's your feelings about Frontierland? Which I know it's kind of weird times to think about, like romanticizing that time period. But
yeah, I'm holding back an explanation because of another land in this park. I'll give it if I could give it a half mark, I would give it a 1.5, but I'll give it a 2.
Okay. I'm good with it too as well. I have some nostalgic feelings. I remember going there as a kid. They had more like streetmosphere and stuff like that. And so for that reason alone, I'll give it a 2. So I think we're on the same page there.
Okay.
All right. Liberty Square. We got Hall of Presidents, the Riverboat, and the Haunted Mansion. So obviously not a lot of volume, but there's, one all-time classic attraction there. So what are you thinking out of 10?
What did we give Adventureland? Did we give that an 8 or a 9?
We gave it a 9.
A 9. So I have to give Liberty Square probably an 8, only because it's very small, right? It doesn't have a lot of square footage, but it packs a punch.
Yeah.
So you've got the iconic riverboat, even though I wouldn't mind if you got rid of it and put something else there. But you've got the Haunted Mansion, which is like a classic. And Hall of Presidents is just awesome. And it also doubles up as a great place to stay cool because the air conditioning is like 50 degrees in there. So I would probably give it 1 rung down below Adventureland for that alone. But what do you think?
So I was thinking a little lower just because of the quantity is not there. And if we gave Frontierland a 7, and that has like kind of 2 bangers, I would have trouble giving this more than that. So I would think a 7. But
I'll go with 7. I'm like I was in that range, right? Like
yep.
I could have gone 7 or 8 on that. I'm just thinking because if we did a math formula of the footprint of all their attractions versus the footprint of the overland overall,
like bang for your buck or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, but yeah, you're right compared to Frontierland. Yep, I'm with you.
Now dining, which I don't always remember how much dining there is in this small area. There's Liberty Tree Tavern, the Diamond Horseshoe, Columbia House Harbor, Liberty Square Market, and Sleepy Hollow. Like that's quite a lot. Like talk about bang for your buck, like in square footage. So
the
out
market
of 5,
is kind of like an open place. Like
it's just for snacks or whatever. It's not like a big deal, but
I think I have to give this. Gosh, like I want to give it a 4, but I refuse to. I want to give it a 3.
Okay, I was thinking 4 just because of like the amount of like good, but I could go 3
because but how often are you like really looking to book any one of these things? They're all solid. It's just like. Just because it has a large selection of solid places to eat, does that make it a 4? But any of them particularly great to get up to that 4? Is it?
No. I think that's fair
because over quantity, like
and as I'm starting to think of like comparing it to the other lands, there's at least probably something another one that would rank ahead of this one. So I think 3 makes sense.
Okay.
And then overall feel. of theming and stuff like that.
I mean, if you want to just go pure theming, I think it's probably, what do we give Adventureland? We give that a 4.
4 out of 5. Yeah.
So I would like to give Liberty Square a 4, but I don't think it's big enough or doesn't have as many iconic like things to it that make it like revolutionary. Because you've got the Haunted Mansion like kind of sitting there. That's kind of out of the revolutionary kind of thing. So I have to give it a 3.
Yeah, I think 3 makes sense. 3, I think it's really well themed for what it is, and you have like obviously the tree with the lanterns and things like that, but there's not as much to it as there is to like Adventureland or whatever. It can't be like as much as that. So, all right, Fantasyland. I'm not going to list all the attractions because there's a million, including another train stop and stuff like that. But you got all the classic dark rides, plus the new Fantasyland stuff with Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and you also have Storybook Circus with the Barnstormer and Double Dumbo and stuff like that. So there's a lot of attractions here, obviously ranging the gamut from an individual lightning level, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, all the way down to Barnstormer and Filler Magic and stuff like that. More of the filler attractions, but also obviously classic stuff too.
Yeah, I am weighing quantity over quality on this. So I'm giving it points for quantity because we were just talking about that the parks need more, D&C attractions.
More of these things, yep.
I have to give it a solid 3. If you want to take,
remember this out of 10.
Darn. I'll give it a 6. Then I'll double it. Right. We'll give it a 6 out of 10. I would go higher if the attractions were better, but like a lot of them are middling attractions that like, we want to go on my diatribe here. It's like you've got Fairy Tale Hall, which should be an attraction. Winnie the Pooh is kind of, a poor version of what it should be. Peter Pan is the most overrated ride in the park. Philharmagic is pretty great, but it's a pain in the butt to get into and that too. Mine Train is great. I love Mine Train, and that's the only reason why I put it up there to a 6. I don't like Storybook Circus. I think it needs to be replaced with something else. But even though I love Dumbo, I don't know how to kind of combat those two things. Yep. What say you?
I think a 6 feels about right. Like you do get credit for the number and kind of the amount of people that it can, handle. You do have things like Small World and just a number of classic rides there. But at the same time, they're not ones that we usually plan our day around too much. Maybe Peter Pan, you're getting the Genie Plus just because of the line, not because the ride itself warrants it, So I think a 6 feels about right. Dining, there's Cinderella's Royal Table, Pinocchio Village House, Be Our Guest, Gaston Tavern, Prince Eric's Village Market, Cheshire Cafe, Storybook Treats, and the Friar Nook. So again, another one that's got some quantity, but a couple big hitters in Cinderella's Royal Table and Be Our Guest.
See, I really want to give this a 5, but I don't think the overall quality of the food is very high. They just have a lot of really good ones. And I love Cinderella's Royal Table. I love Friar Nook for breakfast in the morning. And Be Our Guest, I have fond memories. I'll give it a lot of credit just for, the ambiance of that restaurant.
Yeah.
So I think I have to give it a 4.
I think that makes sense because I think there's a lot of good things, but I would put it below Adventureland, which we gave a 5. So
yeah, if you want to give it Adventureland 4A and this 4B, I'm happy with that.
And then just the overall feel of the land, themed to medieval fair, and then obviously the Storybook Circus area.
If this wasn't, are we including the castle in this?
I mean, I guess the role the castle plays in the overall feel because it's the medieval feel of being next to the castle and stuff like that.
I want to give Fantasyland a 1, but I'll give it a 2.
Okay.
Just because of the castle here. I think the medieval fair kind of the pathway down into Liberty Square, I don't think that looks very good. I think it's kind of cheap looking. I think they could have done a ton better with new Fantasyland looks. I do like the area that they added with Ariel and Gaston's Tavern area, and I absolutely do not like the look and feel of Storybook Circus. I think it's rather a poor use of space that way. So that's why I give it a 2. If you included the castle, it becomes a 4 because it's the castle. But if we want to kind of ignore that, the iconic thing of like whatever.
I mean, the castle is technically part of it, and that's where Cinderella's Royal Table is. I kind of agree with all your talking points, and especially when you compare it to like Disneyland's Fantasyland with how much better detailed that is and stuff like that. I mean, maybe we split the difference and say it's a 3.
Sure.
But yeah, it's definitely, there's a lot of
it's very
not so great
bland.
parts. Yeah.
Right? Like you just look at some other parks and what Disney's capable of doing.
Yeah.
Galaxy's Edge, Pandora, even Toy Story Land. Like Fantasyland is a lot of concrete with a carousel in the middle and just kind of like just drapes and flags kind of going over like Peter Pan and Small World and stuff like that. And to me, I think they could have done a lot better.
Yeah. I mean, I do think the overall feel like
right?
you said with the castle, but even in New Fantasyland where you have with the Beast Castle and stuff like that, there's some theming and kind of immersion with that and stuff like that. So there's some decent areas, but all right. And then we have Tomorrowland to finish this up. We have the Speedway, Tron, Space Mountain, Astro Orbiter, the TTA People Mover, Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, and Monsters Inc. Laugh Floor. So out of 10, what would you give the attractions?
Oh, this is hard, right? Because you've got the People Mover. You have are we not including Carousel of Progress? Do we not have that on?
Oh yeah, no, that should be on here too. Yeah, good call.
I mean, like 2 of my favorite attractions are in here, but I want to give this a 1 out of 10 because but I can't because I'm so disappointed with Tomorrowland overall. I just want to give it bad grades because whatever. But to be honest, because you have Tron, you have Space Mountain, you have People Mover, you have Carousel of Progress, you could spend a solid 4 hours as part of the park riding some awesome attractions. I have to give it probably. What did we give Adventureland? We gave that a 9 or
9?
8?
Yeah, that was a 9, and then Frontierland and Liberty Square we gave a 7, and Fantasyland a 6.
I have to give this an 8 then, just because the density of like must rides is right there.
Yep, I agree with that. I mean, I would have been somewhere around there, 7 or 8 or something like that, just especially with Tron and Space Mountain.
I should have stuck with a 1 just to see what your rebuttal would have been. But no, I'm with you on that.
My rebuttal would have been I want to not piss off my wife, whose favorite ride is the People Mover, and if we gave it a 1, she would have been upset. I mean, she was like, "Well, that's clearly a 10 just for the People Mover."
My wife's favorite attraction is Carousel of Progress, so she would not that she listens to this podcast, but still.
So dining, there's Cosmic Rays, Anti-Gravity's Galactic Goodies, Cool Ship, Energy Bites, Joffrey's Launching Pad, and the Tomorrowland Terrace Restaurant, which isn't open very often.
I mean, I give this a 1. I mean,
I think that's an easy 1. I think it's terrible. It's actively bad. And then the overall feel, it's themed to an intergalactic city, a concept of the future inspired by the optimism and scientific advancement of the space age and atomic age, or at least that's what they say it is.
I'll give this a 1 too because it's absolutely you don't know what they're doing in this area.
Yeah, I personally would talk it up to a 2 just because I like it at night, especially now with Tron.
That is fair. I haven't seen it with Tron, so I will go 2, and then you will have to come back after your trip
and say how worth it is.
Is it actually a 2 at night?
Yep. So just to sort everything.
How do we do?
So right now we have our top choice is Adventureland with 18 out of 20 points.
Ooh, okay.
Fantasyland and Liberty Square tied. They both had 13 points.
Okay.
Tomorrowland had 11. Frontierland 10. And Main Street USA with 8.
It's a crime.
But I mean, there's just no attractions there. So
Fair enough. I like this game, Phil. I like when we have to argue with each other for. I'm glad you brought that up before the show and said like, no, we're doing it this way because that was that's much better than what I thought this was going to be. So I like this game. And I think we have at least we have to bring rank 'em up. Rank 'em.
I just called it rank 'em, but maybe I'll think of a more Disney appropriate name. But right now,
we'll just call it rank 'em. I like it. At least once a month, we'll bring this back and kind of do all the different parks.
Yeah, we have obviously the parks, and we could do resorts or whatever. Yep, for sure.
I like it. Okay, even though we're at the hour mark, I really wanted to do this game for this show. So we're going to go over. We want to thank you for your patience if you're still listening. So I came up with a game. It's called Demo, Retheme, and Expand. It's similar to other games, which I'm not going to talk about right now because this is a family-friendly show. The game is quite simple. I'm going to list 3 new attraction ideas, and you need to pick a ride that you want to demolish for and build a ride in its place. So the building is raised. So think what they're going to do to Dino Land, right? They're going to raise it and build something in its place. You have to pick a ride that you want to retheme into one of these new rides. So you have to think of a ride that you're going to sacrifice to build it in the same building. Think of Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway as it was rethemed, or Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Then you have to pick a ride and a park you want to expand into. Think of Pandora, because it didn't replace anything. It was just added to a park. So you have to pick a park and a place of where you want to do it. So, Phil, I picked 3 different attractions or attraction ideas, right? So these are not anywhere else. I just kind of made up in my head. And then we're going to talk about which ones we're going to do. And I think the best way to do this, Phil, because it only makes sense in context of each decision, we're going to go ahead and give each one of our demo, retheme, expand, explain why, and then the other person takes their turn, right?
All right.
Would you like me to go first, since I came up with this, and you can see how I...
Yeah, why don't you do that, and then you could also list off the 3 ride ideas, right?
Yes.
And kind of where you picked them. Yep, sounds good.
So we have 3 attractions that you have to pick what to do with them. How we're going to put them into the parks. The first one is a VR simulation ride. So think goggles that you have to wear. Think of like an Oculus that you have to put around your head. There's some attractions that are actually developing like this in some other themed park areas. And you sit on like an individual like bike thing, kind of like Pandora, but you're not racked up like Pandora in front of a screen. It's just like a place that you sit in the middle of a room somewhere, right? So VR, a vehicle that you sit in that doesn't go anywhere, that moves around based on your thing, and you're fighting in a battle from Raya. So that's one job. So we're using the IP of Raya into a VR simulation ride. The second one is a Jungle Book Lazy River. I don't know if this is like a tube-based thing like Kali River Rapids, or it's anything else, but it's water. You're in a boat of some sort, and it's lazy, and it's kind of fun. So you could pick that it's free form, and you can just kind of floating around. You get banged around, or you could pick it's on a track like Jungle Cruise type of thing. So you can pick that in your mind. And the third one is an Incredibles Frozone coaster. And essentially it's where you're chasing after him or with him, and you're kind of riding through his icy path as he goes through a battle in the city type of thing. So kind of want to think about that kind of scene for the movies. So I'm going to go first. And my demo is I'm tearing down Storybrooke Circus. If you couldn't guess from my previous comments, I was thinking about
every time we do this game, it's going to be I'm tearing down Storybook Circus and putting something there.
I'm demoing Storybrooke Circus for a Raya VR ride. I think it'd be really cool to kind of add like that is like a nice, really cool Fantasyland kind of thing. You've got dragons, you've got a chase scene. You could probably make it kid friendly. So I'm gonna put that part of Fantasyland. I do have a problem of what you do with Dumbo, because I don't think you demo Dumbo. I think you somehow try to make sure you're moving it somewhere so it stays in the park.
So move it again.
Right? Move it again. Absolutely. So maybe just do one Dumbo ride rather than 2. I don't know. So I didn't really think that far. Retheme. I'm going to retheme Rock and Roller Coaster. This is pretty simple. We're going to add I don't think Disney needs to add more roller coaster space to any of their parks, but that would be a really cool retheme. And just kind of, I don't know how you do it inside. Maybe have more lighting, maybe kind of make the tracks in front of you project ice as you're kind of going through. Maybe they could do something like that. I think it'd be kind of fun. And then my expand, we're going to expand Animal Kingdom and put Jungle Book in Dino Land, or whatever the new Dino Land becomes. And the new land will not be a Moana themed land, even though Moana will be in it, but it will be more of an ocean themed land. And then you can kind of bring in Nemo. You could do the Jungle Book Lazy River type of thing because it's water. You can do Moana's whatever log flume ride or whatever it turns out to be, that type of thing. But you can now rebrand it as like, creatures of the ocean in Animal Kingdom, which would be much better than just like, here's a Moana land that happens to have water in it. It's now more water themed in general. So that's how I would do it. And God knows Animal Kingdom needs more expansion. So we're going to expand that space. So we're going to get the Moana stuff already. That's not changing, but we're going to expand beyond that also.
Okay.
And put this in there. So that's, I'm not replacing the Dino Land stuff. So
gotcha.
We're adding to the Blue Sky stuff that we saw last year.
Okay.
All right, Phil. Any comments on that, or do you want to dive right into your demo, retheme, expand?
I think that's good. I guess the Jungle Book, though, that's not really watery, so this would be separate from the Moana and
you're
Nemo
on a river.
stuff,
it's a lazy river, right? Like
okay.
You're riding on Baloo's tummy or something else like that through a river, and you're kind of doing a thing, but you're on water, right?
Okay.
And it's a jungle river rather than ocean or whatever. Maybe
Okay.
it's just I don't know. I didn't really think this far. I just wanted an expansion. I wanted 3 river rides at Animal Kingdom if you want to
Okay.
include Navi
Gotcha.
River Journey. Okay.
All
What
right.
did you do? Sorry.
So my demo is I would demo the Pixar Place launch bay area of Disney's Hollywood Studios and create more full like Pixar area. And part of that would be a Frozone coaster. And I think you could, even if you wanted to save some money, is just port over Crush's coaster that is currently in the Paris studios. Because in part of that ride is you kind of the ride vehicle spin. So it could kind of be like you're spinning around on the ice as you're going around and stuff like that. My re-theme is, I guess, similar idea that you had with the Jungle Book is I would put it in Animal Kingdom, but I would re-theme the Kali River Rapids to Jungle Book. So maybe it wouldn't be super lazy, but maybe they could tone it down a little bit. But I just think that would be kind of a relatively easy fit. And, Jungle Book took place in like Asia and it would kind of fit right there. And I think it would be a kind of an easy re-theme and have some animatronics going around and stuff like that.
See, I was going to do that, but I thought that was too easy.
Yeah.
Of an answer.
Sometimes the easy answer is the right answer.
That's correct. I'm not saying your idea is not better than mine. I mean, I think it is, but still.
I would also expand at Animal Kingdom for the Raya attraction, or I guess maybe a whole Raya land. I would use the space that's behind Kali River Rapids, but before you get to Rafiki's Planet Watch. Okay. And part of it would be a VR ride. My ideal, though, and I kind of message you, could it be more of an AR ride? Augmented reality, where you would move around as well. You wouldn't just be in a fixed spot, but you would go around and you would wear goggles and stuff like that to simulate the fight, but it would take place in separate areas.
Kind of like the Donkey Kong, was it Mario Kart?
Yeah, like the Mario Kart. Yeah, exactly like that. Or even like how, Spider-Man doesn't use augmented reality, but if you've ever been on that, where you kind of move around to a different scene to scenes and there's different fights taking place, that just uses 3D glasses. But I would use AR for different battles for Raya.
I like how we both expanded Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, I think it's pretty. There's a lot of that we've talked about that definitely needs more things at Animal Kingdom. As much as we love the park, we just want more of it.
It needs more, and there's plenty of space to do that. That's not going to interfere with the animals. So I like that. All right, before we get into the DBC engagement, where we just basically talk about why we're changing up the show a little bit, what did you think about these 2 new games, Phil? I really liked your Rankum game. I think I like the engagement between the 2 of us. I think that should be something that we do more often. I really like that. What did you think of the DRE, Demo Retheme Expand game?
I like the idea. I thought it actually gave me a little bit of a challenge where it wasn't just like pick some area and do something new. You're like, no, these are the 3 things that have to be done. Mm-hmm. I think that makes it a little bit more challenging. And I like anything that's even remotely like Armchair Imagineering. So kind of fits in that.
So that leads us with the engagement. Last week, we asked you guys different ideas. We're not going to list off all the ideas that the community gave. They were all great, and some of them overlapped with what we were already thinking. We started kind of getting into, I don't want to call it a rut because I had fun doing the hour takes and the top 3 and stuff like that. But when you're doing the same thing every single week, it's not that it's sometimes it's challenging to come up with content, and I don't like being challenged with content. I like doing different things. And I think the listeners out there, you like hearing different things throughout the show. It's not the same old, like, okay, we're doing this, then this, then this. Once you start getting into a pattern too much, I think that throws everything off. And Phil, I know you've been doing the news for 3 years now. I think we've been progressing through different versions of the news. This is the first time we're not technically doing the news. How do you feel?
I think this is what we always wanted, and sometimes we got better about it than others, where it was like, okay, pick 1 or 2 key things that are going on that are news, but then build on it. I think some weeks we did that better than others, but it's so easy when you're reporting on the news to fall back into that rut of just like reading off stuff. So I think this new structure will force us to go beyond that.
And if you're listening to this, you're probably on our Discord. You were probably talking about the news as it happens. You don't need a podcast telling you what happened 6 days ago in the news. And often enough, our news just blended in with our topic, and it was just like a continuation. So I'm like, why read off like there's new menu items and stuff like that why don't we just talk about like really fun things that are happening in the community? And Phil, I want to say before we started the show, it's like, are we going to have enough content for the show? And here we are 8 minutes over the hour, and we each have a backup topic that we did not even discuss. And I'm kind of happy about that. You had one about the Haunted Mansion and the anger of the storyline, all the other stuff like that. I was just going to like shake my head. And I was talking about there's an unfortunate major shakeup at one of the more popular online Disney communities with podcasts and shows that we were talking about. I wanted to talk about. I think this is a good topic for another day because I don't think this is kind of going away. We maybe talk about this next week, Phil, if we could talk about it after the show. But the idea is that we don't have professionals in the Disney blogosphere, vlogosphere, right? There's like, it's a bunch of people kind of doing their own thing and it's their own small business, but we don't have like, there's no accountability. It's just people's YouTube channels, right? So there's no quality checks. There's no like checks for, ethics or truthfulness or anything else like that. And is there a space for that? Do we need to change? Do we need some other stuff, right? So that's questions for another discussion. We won't get into this because I can still talk about this for another half hour when it comes to production quality and how people act, that type of thing. That being said, next week's DBC engagement has a question for you because you were fretting about crowd calendars and your upcoming trip because all of a sudden it was very, very low, and then all of a sudden it's very
seemed to be ramping back up, and
So our question to the community is, what do you do, if anything, a month prior to your trip? The crowd calendars are starting to creep up a little bit. Do you change your plans? Do you prepare differently, whether it's mental or physical? Do you take it in stride or do you get nervous? How do you combat those expectations? Do crowd calendars or reports of increased crowds mean anything to you prior to the trip? Do you even search those things out, or you just kind of, if you hear about it, you shrug your shoulders, you move on because you're going anyway? There's nothing you could do about it, right? So how does that affect your planning, if at all? I'm curious how people kind of fret about these things because we read about it on Discord or forums or on Twitter. Oh my God, the crowds, this, that, and the other. I hope they're low. I hope whatever. I mean, does that impact you other than like you sitting at home typing on the internet, being worried about it? And that's all you can do. So get on Discord. Make sure you join. If you're watching this on YouTube, go into the description. There's a link to Discord there. And if you can't find it for whatever reason, make sure you reach out to us in any of the social media platforms at the DBC Pod. We appreciate you guys listening. We'll see you next week. And have a good one, everybody.
Take care, everyone.